Hey, everybody, this is Derwin from the Dead President Society, and we are checking in with our senior medical correspondent, Dr. Matt. Dr. Matt, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing just lovely. How are you doing?
I am balding in my mid-30s, but that's okay. And today we're going to talk about the untimely death of our 12th president, Zachary Taylor. And history tells us that Zachary Taylor was unfortunately cut down in the prime of his life due to a bowl of cherries on unpasteurized milk on a hot DC day on the 4th of July. Now, my question is, are cherries and unpasteurized milk typically that lethal?
So, in the modern age, the answer would be no. But seeing as we're talking about the mid 19th century, this would be quite a regular occurrence. Were the cherries themselves responsible to the death? Probably not. What they were washed in, that's probably a contributor to his death.
Right. So it might be something to do with what they called the night soil back then,
Yes.
where they basically took the human waste and put it in this big giant field. But the night soil itself, the human waste, was kind of contaminating the water supply for the White House. So you're saying that the cherries could have been washed in that?
Correct. So back in that time, sewer systems weren't really a thing. Have you ever been to Disney World?
Yes.
Okay, so I think it's Frontierland. You've been,
Yes.
so you know how there's that like kind of brown stream of bricks down the middle of the road?
Ew.
That's exactly what you think it's supposed to be.
Ew.
So you have to remember that human excrement is very rich in bacteria. It's very easy to pass things on from your waste,
Wow.
especially if you don't have any soap and water, which, given the time period and their general ideas towards sanitation at the time, is probably the case. You can pass that kind of stuff on very easily. So, I
Wow.
mean, have you ever been on a cruise ship before?
Yes.
So, have you ever heard of like the rotavirus infections, rotavirus, norovirus?
Yes. Yes. I
Yeah,
have heard of
so
those.
essentially that's what Zachary Taylor died of, was what we would call acute gastroenteritis, but in their day they called it cholera morbus, which basically means basically the same thing.
No,
But
what you said acute gastro, what now?
acute gastroenteritis.
What does that mean? Like it just your pooper's all messed up?
So it's not just your pooper, you could actually be vomiting up at the same time too. So
Oh, good heavens.
yes, it's not fun.
Oh, like he pooped himself to death.
Yeah, it's because I mean the accounts of him before he died, he had severe cramping, diarrhea, nausea, vomiting, and dehydration. All of those fit with gastroenteritis, a modern day
Wow.
definition of it.
Wow, that man spent 40 years in the military and fighting in our nation's wars, and he pooped himself to death. That you
Mhm.
just
His death would not have been a very comfortable death for him.
yeah,
It
yeah,
would have been, I think it was 5 days worth
yeah,
of absolute just constant diarrhea, constant
yeah,
nausea. Cramping is terrible.
yeah.
Um,
They didn't have like IVs or anything back then
no,
anyway. So
no, they didn't. No, so I
what
guess
was
this
their
is
treatment back then for that sort of
so
thing?
back then.
Like mercury and blood demons or
So actually, the bloodletting had started to go out of fashion in the mid 19th century, believe it or not.
sure.
That is, we're kind of in the transition period in medicine at this time. So we're starting to get close to germ theory becoming a thing, which is
Okay.
the thought that microbes cause disease.
Sure.
So we're not fully there yet, but there's some kind of working our way to there. Now, we're not going to have antibiotics for another almost 100 years at this point. So
Oh, I love me
that's
some penicillin.
yeah, oh, yeah. They do some really weird stuff. So they would give people they'd induce vomiting
Yeah.
with tartramitic, which basically is like syrup of ipecac. Have you
Yeah.
seen that Family Guy episode where they just vomit all over the place in the living room? That's what it does.
Yeah.
Then they give them a laxative, castor oil. The thought behind that is if you could speed up the process of elimination, you'd get rid of whatever's causing someone to have diarrhea. In practice, does it work that way? No, you're just making the problem worse.
I was gonna say, so he's vomiting and having severe diarrhea for days, and so that hey, let's just double down on
Yep.
this.
Hmm.
Like he like that. So that's like if I lost a foot And they thought, you know what, we should take his other foot just to make it like symmetrical, right? Because we don't want him to be like all like lopsided and shit.
So some of the other things that they've tried in this time period would be opium and chalk mixture.
Opium?
Yes, correct.
Like,
yes, like straight opium. So what opium does, any opioid medication actually causes constipation when used in large doses if it doesn't kill you first. So the thought being is that, hey, we can slow down the diarrhea if we can just back them up as much as possible. The issue with that being is that when you're sick with a bacterial infection, if you stop the diarrhea from flowing,
the bacteria stays in there.
The bacteria stays in there, gives it more of a chance to reproduce.
Huh.
And it just causes it to just flow.
Oh, no.
Yeah. It just gets worse and worse. And your dehydration gets worse, but you're not actually passing that diarrhea. So it looks like you're better when in fact you're not better.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
So they had a lot of like symptomatic treatments.
Symptomatic trait, yeah.
Weird trial and error things. And everyone loves opium. So, you know.
Yeah.
And that's crazy.
Yeah. So this, I think you'd appreciate this last treatment here. They actually use brandy in some cases.
I love brandy.
Yeah. I think that was a part of the thing is in like between 1925 and 1934 or 1825 and 1834.
Sure.
The first mentions of oral rehydration and salt replacement therapies were mentioned. So that is a modern day thing. So what they do is they try to replenish your fluids and electrolytes, which is the correct treatment.
Yeah.
The issue with that being is that oftentimes, as mentioned before, the water supply was very, very contaminated. With the cholera, there's other things like that you could find in the water, also within the milk too. I didn't really get to talk about this, but some of the bugs you could find like E. coli, Campylobacter, Listeria, Salmonella, Strep, especially in the milk, TB and diphtheria.
Wow.
So those bugs are pretty nasty.
So like all of the ones that I got shots for as a baby.
Well, diphtheria, yeah, but the rest of them, there's no vaccine available.
Oh, no.
So you're just kind of good luck. Yeah, so those in the unpasteurized milk, that's why it's a bad idea to drink it.
Yeah.
Raw milk is a bad idea. Don't do it. It's not
because okay, so for our layman's audience, what's in unpasteurized milk again?
Milk is basically a perfect medium for bacteria to grow, and it's got all sorts of sugar, it's got protein, got all sorts of good things. So after the milk gets taken from the cow and they put it in the little glass bottles and then they cork it, what happens is there's bacteria basically on the cow because, you know, cows are, they don't use the restroom.
I've been in a stable. Oh, it's gross.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
So just think people were drinking that without cleaning it out.
Okay, so you're in a farm and there's just fields of cow shit everywhere, and then you're in a stable and there's just cow shit and horse shit. It's all kind of a stew, right?
Yeah.
And so that's in their milk. No wonder he died. Like that plus the poo water they're drinking.
Yeah.
Like Jesus Christ, it's amazing that city survived as long as it did. Oh man. So if President Taylor was with us today and he was in your treatment room, what would you guys do to help him?
So it really depends on how bad the diarrhea is. If he is able to keep up with his fluid loss, what kind of the standard of care is basically tell him, hey, drink a lot of Gatorade, drink a lot of water. Don't take any Pepto. Don't take anything that will back you up because that'll just make everything worse in the long run.
Sure.
And we try and treat this as an outpatient. That being said, once we get to the point where they're really dehydrated, they're having uncontrolled vomiting, they have electrolyte abnormalities, like their labs are showing us that they're really dehydrated. They have a lot of blood in their stool, really uncontrolled abdominal pain, symptoms that have been going on for 4, 5, 6 days at this point. If they're older than 65 or they have other medical problems like diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, that point we'd say, hey, let's admit you to the hospital. Let's give you some IV fluids. Let's see if we can't kind of help get you through this. Probably one of the things we would have done at that point is gotten a stool sample. We just sent that for culture to see if we could identify the bug that's causing it. And if it is bacteria, the disease is bad enough, at that point we would give an antibiotic to try to help get rid of the bacteria and flush his system.
So not leeches then?
Not leeches, no.
Okay, I'm glad we moved past that. As
we are very past that.
That's good. Okay, Doc. I want to thank you for hopping on with us real quick. And
Oh,
we will see you next time, man.
all right. See you next time.